This one's about autism. It's the RAADS-R, if that's how you say it. I'm gonna try and make this quicker, kind of because it's got a fuckload of questions. 80? Yeah. So that duration, my video might outlast that. And I don't want to do much in post, because I'm finding doing stuff in post boring lately. This is Engelbrecht's rating that it's not appropriate, it's ambiguous, but it's quite accurate. Maybe they don't like it, but they host it on their website. Here's what it's asking about. Forgive my format. I'm a sympathetic person. Now, we're meant to know the difference between sympathy and empathy, aren't we? AI says empathy is the ability to share another person's feelings, while sympathy is feeling sorry for someone else. I do think feelings are contagious. Oh, it's not empathy we're going for, is it? It's sympathy. And I can do that. But look how we're answering this. It's periods of your life. Feeling sorry for someone else. No, I've got memory of that. So there's a truth. I often use words and phrases from movies and television in conversations. I do reference humor a bit, but it's not about just making the reference. Hopefully there's something to subvert. However, I think the amount of time I spend on TV tropes. I don't even like movies, but I do this, and often could be overstating it, but I'm not saying never true. I'm often surprised when others tell me I've been rude. Yeah, because all I'm being is honest in a way that intends to be auspicious. So if it's come out rude, that's saddening. Oh no, sometimes I talk too loudly or too softly and I'm not aware of it. I don't think to a huge extent, but I think that I can have a yes for this one too. I have a quasi basso profundo voice. I can project low notes pretty well, but I also speak in the vocal fry, and I'm far closer to loud than quiet. I've definitely, I know people who can speak too quietly, and it's just what you can glean from the words you can combine out of that. I don't think that's a problem with me, but sometimes potentially too loud. I don't remember that recently, but again, I'm not clicking never true. I often don't know how to act in social situations. Yeah, you're meant to act? I've not been to RADA. I've only just arrived at RAADS-R. I can put myself in other people's shoes. This is when they start using phrases. So this is on the other test in the less metaphorical context of imagining what it's like to be another person. However, I think this is less about the kind of body swap fantasy of it, and I believe the expression is more about empathy or sympathy. Empathy. And if they want me to say true or false, I think I'm more than zero on that, but I don't really want to click true, so I think I'm at least gonna, maybe I can divide that from childhood. I don't really absolutely believe that, but that feels like the best way to express the quasi-truth of this. I know you can't always read these, so I have a hard time figuring out what some phrases mean, like, ow, my eye! No, it's, you are the apple of my eye. I mean, the only examples they can really give, they've chosen an example to be clear about it, hence they've chosen one that most of us already understand, but a lot of simile and metaphor and cliche I'm not tuned into. When it's invoked, I kind of have to unpick the non-literal meaning they apparently mean, and they chose the wrong words for. I think my resistance to this stuff involves how trite cliche feels. It's become encoded into my instincts to not use cliche, or at least if you're gonna use it, subvert it. They can have a full true on that. I only like to talk to people who share my special interests. Now, special interests are quite a big consideration in contemporary autism. I don't consider myself to have a special interest. I do like Pokemon. I don't think about it all the damn time. Someone suggested that my special interest was music, and I see where you're getting at, but I think special interests are a bit more honed than that. I don't mind saying that my special interest is music, but it's not really how that occurs to me. And I think as study continues, we'll notice how many alleged neurotypicals have quite devout special interests. It's just the word special that's getting in the way for me here. And if we say, I only like to talk to people who share my interests, only like to is overstating it, but it's a good way out of small talk. I feel my lenient answering has been lenient in the other direction already thus far, so I'm allowing a lenience in this direction. I focus on details rather than the overall idea. This and the other one, and it's true. I always notice how food feels in my mouth. This is more important to me than how it tastes. Well, have you considered the mouth feel? I've got complexes with food that the NHS are finally figuring out, but I'm not really food oriented. I don't think about it in that context. I miss my best friends or family when we are apart for a long time. I haven't been certain what it's like to miss someone, but I think I yearn for stuff in its absence, and that stuff includes people. I think I'm not really projecting an image of the person in question in a way that missing someone often describes, but they can have a kind of truth. Now, under 16. It's an interesting cutoff because that's the start of what we call college for me. And at least in my life, probably in many lives, British lives, it was a kind of cutoff regarding social independence. I felt I had the social availability of a child before that, and not really that of an adult after that, but at least arguably that of me. Oh, it said best friends. And they can still have a true, if they'd said like 14, I might think about that more heavily. Sometimes I offend others by saying what I'm thinking, even if I don't mean to. That's kind of a repeat question already. We've had the rude without realizing. The context of this doesn't fit me as absolutely because I don't always pitch in. I'm not really aware of an instance of doing this, but it feels true as a vibe. It feels true throughout life as a vibe. Actually, maybe this is where you say a childhood thing. I can't think of specific examples, but they can have this in that context. I only like to think and talk about a few things that interest me. I'd say there's myriad things that interest me, and I like to think and talk about those. It's kind of true in vibe, but okay, yeah, young, sure. I'd rather go out, no. Oh, okay, the options are by myself than with someone I know. I would rather not go out to eat in a restaurant. Why would I? It's cheaper at Lidl, and you don't have to eat in public. I'm quite averse to eating in public, not just psychologically, it makes me unwell. Yeah, maybe there's some psychological factors to that, but if I were by myself, I'd have to do all the interacting with the staff. This is an ironic one because this is not true at all. The only instance of me going out to eat in a restaurant would be with company, and that's a result of autistic traits. But what they're trying to ask, I think, hints that autistic people would like to go and eat in a restaurant by themselves. I cannot imagine what it would be like. Okay, this was in the other test. So, double negative. I cannot. So if you can, you say never true. I think it's an odd consideration. I'd like to hear the perspectives of those who can imagine what it would be like to be someone else. Are you saying you're internalizing that into your first person consideration, your POV? And I don't mean POV as it is on TikTok, an actual POV, but yeah, they can take my true. I have been told that I am clumsy or uncoordinated. I am those things. It doesn't matter whether I'm told that, I can tell me that. Others consider me odd or different. Yeah. I understand when friends need to be comforted. Kinda, but they don't always express it. I saw this test recommended, and ultimately I'm not sure if I like it. We'll see when we get to the end. The part truth of this, I'm choosing to distill into a true only now. I'm not sure how that really fits. I am very sensitive to the way my clothes feel when I touch them. How they feel is more important to me than how they look. Well, it's very rare that I wear short sleeve stuff or more than one layer. I'm quite into the feel, but also how they look. There's some rules there. It would have to not have a brand name, because I'm not a fucking billboard. Generally no, like, text or no message, unless it's a kind of deconstructive message. But yeah, I dress for comfort. I bloat to like 6-fold size, so yeah, you can have that. I like to copy the way certain people speak and act. It helps me appear more normal. Why would I want to appear more normal? Again, that's an autistic trait that I'm answering in a way that counts against what they consider an autistic trait while being very autistic about it. And the thing is, I kind of just can't act. I think subconsciously we copy each other, but why appear more normal? If it's about, like, appearing more invisible, sure. It can be very intimidating for me to talk to more than one person at the same time. Very. Not so much. Again, slight truth, and I'm choosing to click this one just on kind of instinct about that's how the slightness of truth slots in with what they're asking me to answer. But yeah, I'm not liking this one. I agree with the doctor. Maybe throw it out. I have to act normal to please other people and make them like me. No, because then it wouldn't be me that they like. Meeting new people is usually easy for me. You're definitely not getting a full true. Kind of have the never, yeah. I get highly confused when someone interrupts me when I am talking about something I am very interested in. I don't relate to that. Like, obviously interruption is rude, but yeah, I'm not the special interest type to that extent. It is difficult for me to understand how other people are feeling when we are talking. Have the young ones scroll on. I like having a conversation with several people, for instance, around a dinner table at school or at work. It kind of never, nearly never true. Depends how many the several is. Often the more participants, the more filtered, the less you can talk about with any individual, and kind of, I know I'm blurry, the less honesty that gets through. I take things too literally, so I often miss what people are trying to say. Yeah, it is very difficult for me to understand when someone is embarrassed or jealous. Very, somewhat, have this answer. Some ordinary touches that do not bother others feel very offensive when they touch my skin. Oh yeah, I got some canvas shoes off Etsy, and they really disturbed my toenails, not skin. I know this is an autistic experience, and I know I don't experience it to the extent that some do, but since that canvas shoes thing was quite recent, they can have at least a part truth, and I'll click the one that's now. I get extremely upset when the way I like to do things is suddenly changed. Extremely upset. My extreme upsets are like abandonment. Like, to my understanding, I don't have meltdowns. Maybe more than 0 in my life, but also less than 5. The other tests, and probably many of the tests, had a bit on this as well. And I kind of feel I may have answered differently on that, but exactly how this is phrased. Yeah, I think I contextualized it as the kind of shape of my days as a chronically ill person. They can have this, but it's not extremely upset, but it's not never true. Radio button answers just aren't enough, are they? I've never wanted or needed to have what other people call an intimate relationship. False. No. I've been in intimate relationships, and that's really sustained me, and I've learned that I aspire to restore that, not necessarily with the people in question. I mean, they're gay. But yeah, I recognize that the contract of an intimate relationship is one that I'm able to engage well with. It is difficult for me to start and stop a conversation. I need to keep going until I am finished. You can have that kind of because conversing out loud, I'll message someone later with footnotes and like the bit that I didn't fully say because I don't want to express something inexact. I speak with a normal rhythm. I get told that I speak oddly, but that's not necessarily the rhythm, because everyone speaks in constant iambic pentameter, right? I don't know if there'll be a different one about voice that I can be more true on, because I'm either clicking that or that. Yeah, you can have that. The same sound, color, or texture can suddenly change from very sensitive to very dull. Just realized I could have put this in mobile view. I'm not doing it now. I don't really get it. I can find light painful. I guess I can find sound painful. It's quite overwhelming to be among crowd noise, and I kind of can adjust to that, so maybe, and yet, exactly how they've put it, nah. Oh yeah, what an oddly specific one, because that's a real weird place to be. Sometimes the sound of a word or a high-pitched noise can be painful to my ears. A word. I'm friends with most words, even the cancelled ones. It's okay. Some of my best friends are cancelled words. And yet, high-pitched noise? Yeah, a bit. So maybe have that part truth. I'm halfway through. I'm an understanding type of person. I understand stuff. It's not enough for some. I kind of feel like I'm not the one to answer that. It's up to those I intend to have understood. And my track record on that isn't great, but I'm not clicking either extreme, so I'm clicking that one. I do not connect with characters in movies and cannot feel what they feel. Generally true, yeah. I mean, I know watching stuff can make you feel like crying. So literally more than 0. I think compared to the human average, I do not connect nearly as much. And it did say movies, didn't it? Yeah, I'm not interested in movies, and that might be involved. I cannot tell when someone is flirting with me. Absolutely true. I mean, I know it's kind of what makes me assume that anyone's ever flirted with me. All communication has a Schrödinger box of that. The very concept of flirting is like hinting and not quite saying what you mean, and that's such a waste of the energy of communication. I can see in my mind false. I keep lists of things that interest me even when they have no practical use, for example, sports statistics, strange schedules, calendar days, historical facts and dates. I'm data oriented, but I don't keep lists. When I feel overwhelmed by my senses, I have to isolate myself to shut them down. I can recognize that a bit. It can have a childhood one. It doesn't feel like an absolute to me. I like to talk things over with my friends. Yeah, sure. I don't remember enough of this element of pre-16 childhood, so it might be an only now, but I've clicked this one. I cannot tell if someone is interested or bored with what I am saying. Generally, people express interest, and then it's whether or not they mean it. The very choice to express interest when you don't mean it ruins the concept of expressing interest when you mean it. I will say I cannot tell, but I don't go about conversation assessing whether someone's interested or bored. And kind of, a lot of people are boring to communicate with, kind of because they don't listen and they are not interested, and I know that. It can be very hard to read someone's face and body movements when they are talking. Same thing, like clothes or temperatures can feel very different to me at different times. Oh, that's very similar to a prior one. I have body temperature regulation issues, so literally that can feel very different to me at different times. And yet, I don't want to click never, so I have that one. I feel very comfortable with dating. I try to be as helpful as I can when other people tell me their personal problems, obviously, because they're there to solve, right? I have been told that I have an unusual voice, yeah. Sometimes a thought or a subject gets stuck in my mind and I have to talk about it even if no one is interested. Well, that's why I make videos. Again, absolute truth. Slightly overestimating that, but it's closest to absolute true. I do certain things with my hands over and over again. I have never been interested in what most of the people I know consider interesting. Well, why would you know those people? I guess I know people in contexts that don't really make us socially similar. Never have that. I am considered a compassionate type of person. No, and I really thoroughly am. So consider me that, and then I'll have to change my answer. I get along with other people by following a set of specific rules that help me look normal. Again, masking, choosing to look normal, having rules enacting. I don't do it. It is very difficult for me to work and function in groups. Very is kind of overstating it, but I'm not going to click never true. Have one that's skewed positive. When I'm talking to someone and it's hard to change the subject if the other person does so, I can go, no, I don't like it. I'm almost given up and I'm 3/4 through. Sometimes I have to cover my ears to block out painful noises. Yeah, more so lately. I've taken to podcasts a lot. I can't really bear the outside without some kind of in-ear entertainment. I can chat and make small talk with people. I can chat, but it wouldn't be small. Sometimes things that should feel painful are not. I don't absolutely get it, but might correlate with antidepressants. Like, I've gone through a few funerals without getting into the sadness of it. They can have that answer. When talking to someone, I have a hard time this was in the other one. A little, so it can have the little answer. I'm considered a loner by those who know me best. So that's a complex I have, and I've definitely discussed this in videos. Like, loner may well be my orientation, but it's no longer my needs. Those who know me best. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what the cutoff is for. I usually speak in a normal tone. Well, that usual, normal. Normal, usual. I've been told it's unusual, but it's within the standard human voice box range. Normal tone. I know it wants me to say not true, but I think it is true. I like things to be exactly the same day after day, and even small changes in my routines upset me. Well, I don't like new days happening. Small changes do upset me, but the routine, the way I'm locked into routine isn't my choice. Again, familiar question on the other test and on this test. I've already answered this in a range of ways. Have that. Okay, how to make friends and socialize is a mystery to me, yeah. It causes me to spin around or to rock in a chair when I'm feeling stressed. I feel I might have something similar to that, but since it's not yet coming to mind, I'm just clicking never true. The phrase, he wears his heart on his sleeve, does not make sense to me. I recently invoked that in a song, but again, I was doing a pun. There was like cards up a sleeve, and a heart is a type of card. Maybe it's because I'm such a fan of REM. Sleeve metaphors I'm quite used to. I get the metaphor just through reiteration, but maybe it took until I was around 16, so okay. Again, really specific. They've picked one phrase, whereas many similar phrases I don't generally get, and I would say they don't really make sense to me. It's on a secondary level that sense is constructed. If I am in a place where there are many smells, textures, noises, or bright lights, I feel anxious or frightened, sure. Noises, yeah. Crowd noise, when everyone's talking to the extent that it becomes this anonymous collective, really unnerving. And yeah, I think lights, textures, and smells can probably do similar. Noises mainly, though. I can tell when someone says one thing but means something else. Why would someone do that? I think there's plenty of instances where I've not been able to tell that, so they can have never true, even if I'm kind of overstating it. But I like to be by myself as much as I can. Loner complex, and oh yeah, that's what. I keep my thoughts stacked in my memory like they are on filing cards. Oh great, do a metaphor for autism. And I pick out the ones I need by looking through the stack and finding the right one. Or another unique way. So that's unique, but if I agree with it, it would become non-unique. I don't like it, but instinct is that, yeah, that roughly describes how thought works. For me, okay. The same sound sometimes seems very loud or very soft, even though I know it has not changed. Yeah, not hugely, but I slightly recognize what it's saying. I enjoy spending time eating and talking with my family and friends. No, I presume that's referring to eating and talking at the same time. No thanks. Talking, sure, with friends. I can't tolerate things I dislike, like smells, textures, sounds, or other races. No, sorry, it says colors. I can tolerate them a bit. I don't like to be hugged or held. No, I really like that. When I go somewhere, I have to follow a familiar route or I can get very confused and upset. Well, was this written before GPS? I don't think it was. I somewhat appreciate exploring. As ever, none of these four really feel right, so I don't want to click either of the extremes, but then neither of the middles. Maybe that extreme then. It is difficult to figure out what other people expect of me. Yeah. Have you tried making friends as an adult? With millennials, with ghosts. I like to have close friends. Yeah. When I was young, true. Yeah, sure. People tell me that I give too much detail in these videos. I'm often told that I ask embarrassing questions. Often. I think I do ask embarrassing questions, potentially embarrassing. I guess it depends who else is present, if there's someone to be embarrassed in front of. Have the full true, yeah. I tend to point out other people's mistakes. Yeah, for the motive of clarifying. You point out a mistake, so you remove it, and things get better. Score. That's a 142 with these subdivisions. Strong to very strong evidence for autism, sure. I don't like this one.